Hi guys, this is a quick tutorial on how to resize your PDFs so that when you hand in your files you aren't handing in massive files such as this PDF here. You can see that when I hover over it, it is 70 megabytes, which is fairly large. For handing in your files, you are looking at an average of maybe 3 megabytes as an appropriate size. So we're going to try and get the size of this file down today. So you can see when I right click on my file, it automatically wants to open with Adobe Reader, which is the program for reading PDFs, but there isn't actually many resizing options in Reader. What we need to do to get those options is to open it up in Adobe Acrobat instead of Reader. So when we do this, we can see, I'll just close this little tab, we can see the file here, and it has a lot of details along the edges, and it's at a fairly high resolution. You can see even when we zoom in to 400%, it still retains a lot of this detail on the edges. So to resize this file in Acrobat, we can go up to the top left tab, File, and there are options to save. If we go to Save as Other, there are options down the bottom here which will output this file as a PDF, which is what we want. But here you can see there is an option for a reduced size PDF. So when we click this option, what it's going to do is it's automatically going to save this file with properties that are inherent to this file size. So you don't really have the options of choosing the quality of your file. This is built into Acrobat. So when I click OK and rename my file Cat Acrobat and save that, you can see that we are now looking at the Cat Acrobat PDF, and we can see if we go to File Properties that this image is now 36.9 megabytes. So that has pretty much halved the file size of this image. And if we go back to our 400% view, we've lost a little bit of that detail. There's some pixelation happening here, but at our 100% it's still looking pretty great, which is what we'd expect. So this would be still probably too large for handing in, but it is quite an intense image. So if you're just using photographs or line drawings, the reduced file size here would most likely bring that down significantly more. There is another option for resizing your PDFs, and that is resizing through Photoshop. So I'm going to bring this cat PDF up again in Photoshop. I'm using CS6, but if you're using CC, the process should be fairly similar. So when I add my PDF file to Photoshop, here we go, it is sort of the same process. Up in the File tab, we go to Save As, and let me just get my window sorted. I'll be saving this new file as Cat Photoshop so we can see the difference. And there are options here for the file type that we want to save as. So we will be saving as the Photoshop PDF, and when I hit save, we will be faced with this options box, which is really useful when we're trying to get our file sizes down. So the first thing that makes PDFs really large when they're coming out of Photoshop is that they are often preserving these Photoshop editing capabilities. And what that means is that, well, you can see it's just popped up there. What that means is that if your image is created with lots of layers in Photoshop, it will reserve those layers, and when you open it back up in Photoshop from a PDF, those layers will be intact so you can continue editing. So that takes up a lot of data, so if we untick that, that'll make the file size significantly smaller. We also have a compression option on the left hand side, and this is where we can change the resolution of our imagery. you can see that we have downsampling options, and what that will do is that will change the resolution to 300 from any images above it, any images that are above 450 pixels per inch. So at the moment this is fairly high. Like I said, the 150 pixels per inch is perfectly fine for our sort of hand-ins. And there are different types of compression. JPEG is the best, it will make the smallest file size. And then there's the image quality. So I recommend with your particular file you play around with these sort of options and see which gains the best file size, the smallest file size, with the best quality. So I'm going to stick with low here and save that PDF out and just see what happens to our file size then. So in our folder here we have Cat Photoshop. So again, the original was 70 megs and Cat Photoshop is right down to 514 kilobytes, which is half a megabyte. So that is an excellent file reduction. And if we check out the quality of that image, here it's at 200. If we go back to 100%, we can see that that is still a very good looking image. If I compare it to the original here, we can see that they're pretty much identical, which is so great. This is 70 megs and this is half a megabyte. So that's a really great way of reducing a file size. And the quickest way to do this out of Photoshop, if I just show you one more thing, is when we go to Save As, we make sure it's a Photoshop PDF, and I will just make this number 2. With this dialog box, Adobe also has presets. So sometimes if you just want a really quick output, you can select one of these presets instead of messing around with the compression yourself. So when we go to high quality print, you can see it's reticked this box, and in the compression we've gone back up to 300 ppi as our resolution. But there's also the smallest file size option, which has changed that to 100 pixels per inch and unticked the preserve Photoshop editing capabilities. So that's going to bring out an even smaller file size. If I save that there, and oh dear, lost my folder now. In here we can see that this is even smaller. This is 79 kilobytes. So the quality will be a little bit less. So here's the original and here is the really reduced quality. You can see that we've lost the sharpness of our detail here, but it is significantly smaller. So there are some options in terms of resizing your PDF, and I hope this helps.